Yeah, so today we are going to start landing process. So yesterday we went through with the demo class, and in demo class, let me open the demo class content yesterday one. So yesterday we went through with the different component of MDM and what is basically landscape of the MDM, like what are the other tools and technology needed in the MDM projects. And we understood high level data flow inside Informatica MDM. So this is the high level data flow. Now we will start one by one from starting. So in today class, we are going to understand like how to load data in Informatica MDM and how to proceed to the other layer. Like if we have the data in landing layer, then how to move data to the stage layer. So how to do that, okay? So as I suggested yesterday, that for doing any activity in Informatica MDM, we need to push the data at the database layer. Okay. So if we have data in our sources in flat files, CSV, XML, whatever, so with the help of ETL tool, we have to push the data to the landing layer of the Informatica MDM. And this landing layer is within the database. For example, here we are using database as a Oracle. Okay. So let me test that this recording is working or not. Yeah, recording is working. So today we are going to understand this part. Okay. So here, this is Informatica MDM training. So here we will not use any ETL tool for loading the data. So this is just for our understanding in a real-time project. We will use here some ETL or SQL procedure to load data in the landing layer of the Informatica MDM. So landing layer is basically the starting point of Informatica MDM. Okay. So what we will do, we will create some test data in landing layer, and then we will try to create mappings, and then we will try to move that data to the staging layer. So how to create landing table and all, let's try to see this. So for that, we need to have the database so that in database we can create some table. So for database, we can use the SQL developer. And first we will create our table in this SQL developer. And then accordingly, we can see that table in the Informatica MDM. But in real time, what we do, we do create tables here first from the Informatica MDM console. Like in Power Center and all, we know that we have both options, right? We can push the create a script from Power Center to database as well. And if we have some table in database, we can import that table in our Power Center, right? So here in Informatica MDM, basically we create all tables from Informatica MDM Hub console from here itself. Okay. So suppose if we need some landing table to do some kind of POC and all, so we will come to a schema. In the model section, we will come to a schema. Then we will come to landing tables here. And let's create a landing table first. So for that, you need to take a write log. If you want to do any change, you need to take a write log. So first acquire log. And in landing table, just right click, add item, and display name, let's give. So for landing table, we use naming convention L underscore table. For staging, we use S underscore table. And for base object, we will use B underscore table, just for easy understanding. Okay. So I'm giving name like L underscore customer table, CUST customer table. So physical name here, you can see it will automatically take C underscore something. So this will be many naming convention will be taken care by Informatica for all tables. Okay. So we will not change it. We will keep the means Informatica naming convention. Our table name is this. So wherever you will see in display, it will show a table like L underscore cust. But within the database, it will save like that. I will show it. I will show this. And what is this data table space and index table space? So that basically we create at the time of installation of the application, so that data related to the database object will be saved here, and indexes related to the database index will be saved here. So this will be a secure setting. Let's click on OK. Yeah. So here we can see our table has been created and now we need to add the columns. So here you can see that this last updated column is reflecting. So some of the columns in the some of the tables will be added by default by Informatica. Okay. So these are called system columns. So this column will be added by Informatica to just uh, do the auditing kind of thing to understand like data when it got changed and when got updated. So like in ETL project, we do add such tables for auditing by ourselves, right? But in Informatica MDM, that will be taken care by application itself. So here this is system table, system column. Now let's add some test column so that we can add information and we can play with that. So this is a customer table. So let's take customer ID as a one column. Customer ID, null, it can not be nullable. Let's take number. What is that? Value must be instead of float. Okay, we have taken nullable. That's why it's coming. So here let's take int. Why this is coming? Double value must be an instance. Okay, actually here we see why we are getting here we have selected not nullable, right? And we are creating the column customer ID and we don't have any value in that, right? So that's why nullable value it is not taking. Okay. So first we have to cancel it and let's check this. Now we will not get that. Let's take integer or something because first time we are creating this column and we are not having any value. So not null value it is not taking due to constraint. Okay. So let's take nullable and cust ID and now let's take cust name, nullable varchar and let's take address. So just we are taking these three column just for understanding. Now we have to save it. So once we will save it, we can see this table in our table and column in our database. So this is here you can see the ORS and database is training. Okay. So now we will come to SQL developer and we'll connect to this training database, training schema. And here we can see that content. So for your kind of POC or practice, you can create any table or any object, just put your name like L underscore Assis underscore customer, L underscore Rakesh underscore customer. So just put your name in between that so that you can identify your object. So here we can see this training. Let's expand it. And here if you see, so we have created L underscore cust. But why it is showing C underscore L? Because C underscore was appended by Informatica for the naming convention. Okay. So now here we can see the table and here we can see a last updated customer ID and this. So this source row ID and all these are the system columns. So we can ignore this for time being. Now let's add some data. So data here customer ID, let's put 100, customer name kind of Raj, then address, let's put Delhi. Let's add the second record. Yeah, let's put 200. Just this record we are creating for testing. So in real time, in this table, we will get data through the ETL process, through the different source. But here for testing, just we are creating some test data in our learning table. Chennai. Let's keep only two data, let's save it. So we can see we have the two data in our landing table. So from here, we cannot see the data. We can only see the data from, we will see later, from data steward section, okay, from data manager and all. But from here, we cannot see the data, okay. So if you want to see the data of this table, you have to come in backend in the database and you have to do the select on this. Then you will be able to see the data. Okay. So now we have created data in we have created landing table, and also we have inserted some test data in landing table. Now we have to move the data to a staging layer. So this is the second layer. So just we have to remember that a staging layer is a source specific layer. So suppose you have two source system. Suppose SRC1 and SRC2. Suppose you have two source system. Or let's take a source system as a kind of CRM, and this will be take kind of one as a data warehouse. We have some EDW source. Okay. So for CRM and EDW, you have to first define these two sources. Why? Because a staging table is always a specific to source system. So suppose for customer, let's come here. For customer, here suppose we are getting data from 5 different sources. So you can collect data from all 5 sources in the same landing table if you want. Just you can add one source system column and you can populate all data from the different sources in a single landing table. Or if you want to create a respective landing table for the respective source, then that you can also do. So we have freedom for that. If data volume is very high, then we will create a separate landing table for separate source. But if we see the data volume is average kind of, then we will try to create less number of table and we will have a single landing table, and we will insert data from all sources in the single landing table. So we are free for both option here. It's up to depend on us. But once you come to a staging layer, then here we don't have two choices. Here we have only one choices. That for each staging table, we have to create a one stage table for each source system. So suppose if you have 5 source system, so you have to create 5 stage table for the customer. Here, for example, we have two source systems, CRM and EDW. So for CRM, we will create one stage table, and for EDW, we will create one stage table. So we don't have a choice that this we can create a single stage table for the multiple source. That we cannot do. So this is defined by Informatica MDM data model. So we have to follow that. So before creating a stage table, we need to define the sources in our system. So how to define the sources? So for that, here you can come system and trust. And here you can see by default some sources are showing. So let me add some source like CRM. So I am adding one source CRM. And now let's add the second source as EDW. So you can have n number of sources. If you have 5, 10, 20, 30, so all sources you can define here. So we have two sources, EDW and CRM. Now we need to create the stage table. So here we can see we have created the landing table. So for creating the stage table, we have to make sure that we will create the base object table first. Why? Let's come here. Because every stage table here, if you come here, where is that? MDM stage layer, trust and validation, load layer, and matching and merging. So finally here, base object table will come in picture. Here, BO table we call. So here BO table. So once we load data from a stage layer to BO table, then final data will come within the BO table. Okay. So what we will do, we will first create BO table, then we will be able to create the stage table. So for creating a stage table, we have two restrictions. First, we have to create a single stage table for the single source. Second, every stage table is a child of kind of base object table. So first you have to create base object table. Then within that, you have to create the stage table. So for creating a stage table, as we know that we have to create the base object table first. So come to base object here and right click and add item. So for base object, we give name like B underscore cust. Let's take CBO cust and create OK. So here you can see base subject table has been created. So same like landing table, we need to add the columns. Here row ID object is basically this is a primary key for this table. So this will be created by Informatica itself. Okay. Now we have to add few columns which we are suppose getting from source, like we created customer ID. Here let's take integer, customer name, and let's take address. Okay, so we have added these columns. Now let's save it. So first we have added source system. Now we are creating base subject table. Within base subject table, so this all section we will learn one by one in the upcoming video. So this time we are trying to create the base stage table. So you have to create base subject table, and then within the base subject table you have to come to a stage table. Okay. Now here we are getting option for addition. Let's click on plus and give name like s underscore customer. And here you can see we are getting option to select the source. Okay. So that means one stage table will be specific to one source. So suppose this table I am creating for the CRM source. So here I can give name something CRM so that I can understand this stage table is for CRM source. So I'm giving a CRM cast so that I can understand this stage table is for CRM, and here I am selecting CRM. Okay. And here this three column is basically coming from the base subject column. So in base subject, just now we have added this three column. So it is saying that which columns you want to keep from the stage table. So why this is coming? So suppose in the real time project, we have 20 columns in our base subject. Okay. But from the CRM source, only the 10 columns is coming. Means value of the 10 columns are coming from CRM. So we can, once we will create this CRM source, CRM stage table, then we will only select this 10 column from here, not all 20 columns. Okay. Same like that, if we are creating a stage table for the other source, and out of 20, if we are getting data for only 15 columns, so we'll only select 15 column for that stage table. Okay. That's why here we are getting option to select the respective column for the base object, because these are the child of base object. So base object will always have more or equal to number of columns, but a stage can have equal to or less number of columns. It cannot have more columns. Okay. So here, for example, I am selecting all columns because we have given some test data for all these columns. So let's select all and press OK. So here we can see we have the stage table created, and we can see the columns also because columns we had just selected. Now we need to create a stage table for the second source for the EDW. So just click add, and here is for staging, EDW as a source, and main attribute, main table as a customer. And here we need to select EDW because this stage table I'm creating for EDW source. So here you need to select the respective source. Just we have to make sure. And here also I'm taking all the columns. In some cases, if you want to take only two columns, like in some cases you are getting data from two columns, so you can just select two columns. It's up to us. Press OK. So here you can see that we have created two stage table. Okay, and columns are also reflecting. So for time being, what we have done, we have created landing table. We have added data in the landing table. Now we have a stage table as well. But before creating a stage table, we had created the source system, and then we had created the base subject table. On top of base subject table, we had created the stage table. So this part is completed. So also we have test data in landing table. So now we will see how we can create mapping to move data from landing table to a stage table. So I'm just taking a pause here, and Ashish, if you have any question, you can ask.
Yeah, while creating that staging table, there is one option for like preserve column, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So here, if we are creating this stage table, so here you can see preserve source system key. Okay. So this I will take up in the upcoming class. So what it will do, if we are selecting this, okay, so it will automatically populate the PKSRC object. That means there is some primary key of the stage table. So that will be automatically populated by Informatica MDM. If I am not selecting this, then we will populate by ourselves. So this I will show you in the mapping section. What is that?
Okay. And one more question.
Yeah.
Like while creating landing table or staging table, while giving the name,
Yeah.
Informatica create its own format like C underscore like that.
Right.
So is there any way to change that?
Yeah. So see, if you want that this physical name should not look like that, so once you are creating now, there you are getting option. Here you can see. Suppose if I am giving XYG, and by default it is taking like that. Okay. If you want to remove it, you can remove it here only, and you can save it. So physical name will be like that.
So in database, it will be created with which name XYZ.
Yeah, XYZ. This in database it will take physical name only. Okay. In
Okay.
database, it will always take the physical name, and this is the display name. So database can have different name, and this display name can have a different name.
Okay.
Okay, now so that we can customize as per our need. That's not an issue because that's why here we are getting our options to edit it. So if you are not editing by default, it will take C underscore. If you want to edit, you can edit for all tables. Okay. So in general, just we follow the Informatica naming convention for easy understanding. So that's why we are not
For
changing the physical
Mhm.
table. Yeah.
For remote desktop, database is also asking the password.
That I will let you know after the class.
Okay. Okay.
That I will configure it. Okay, na?
Hmm.
Okay, so now we have test data in our landing table here. And here we have created landing table and then we have created base object. We have a stage table also here. Now we have to see how we can move the data from this landing layer to a stage layer. So here the concept is similar to ETL, kind of Informatica Power Center and other ETL tool. So for moving data from one place to other place, from source to target, we define mapping, right? So here also we have same concept. What we will do, we'll go to model section, then we'll go to mapping, okay? And in mapping, just create right click and add mapping. So let's create mapping. This mapping is for, so mapping, let's give m underscore. This is suppose I'm creating for CRM stage table for cust. So here, question is coming like how many mapping we should create. So here we have defined two stage table, for example, for two source. So if you have two stage table, so you have to create two mapping. If you have 10 stage table for 10 source, you have to create 10 mappings. So in Informatica Power Center and other things, we have the flexibility. We can take any number of sources and we can create pipeline and all. So that flexibility we don't have here. Okay. So here we can create only one pipeline in one mapping. So here we can select one source. So source here we have landing table. Landing table I have taken L underscore customer and a stage, whatever a stage table you have created. So here I'm taking SCRM because this mapping I'm creating for CRM source and just click on OK. So here we will see that one mapping will be created and here come in diagram. So here this is source and here this is target. Okay. So here just you can do auto mapping. So what it will do, it will just do auto mapping on the basis of same column name. Customer ID connected with customer ID, customer name, address, and all, last update date and all connected by itself. Or if you want, you can drag and drop, like just you delete it and you want to do by yourself, you can do by yourself manually as well. Okay. So here we have one important thing is that we have to keep in mind that for every stage table, there is one column that is called P key SRC object. This is a primary key. Okay. So this is the primary key for every stage table. Okay. So as a primary key, we know that if this is a primary key, then we have to populate a distinct value and we have to make sure that it will not have the null value. These are the two basic kind of restrictions for the primary key, right? We cannot give the null value and we cannot give the duplicate value. So this value we can handle by ourselves. If you want that, you can pass the customer ID. If you are confident that customer ID, whatever you are getting from your source, is a kind of always unique, then you can pass that customer ID in key SRC object. If you want that this customer ID could be duplicate in some cases, and you want to concatenate some columns to make it more unique, then you can also do. So we will do that after this testing. For example, in this testing, just we are taking the customer ID as a primary key and we are connecting it. In the other example, we will try to apply some clean functions in between that, and we will see. So just I've connected the customer ID and let's save it. And here in query diagram, if you want to take only distinct data from source, so how we write select means distinct from the source, same it will fire in the backend and it will only take the distinct data. It will remove the duplicate data. In enable condition, like here if you want to enable some condition like for respective source system, you want to like see here in the landing table we have created one landing table for the two source system. So in the same landing table we will have data for the multiple source system. So this mapping we are creating only for CRM. Okay, so we have to make sure that data from source should be filtered on the basis of source system name. SYS source system name equal to CRM. So this mapping should not read data for the EDW source. Otherwise, it will read data for EDW source and it will load the EDW data in the CRM stage table, which will be wrong, right? So we will make sure that here we will apply the proper filter condition. But
system is a
no, it's not system column. It's a user defined column. You can take any name, but we have to make sure that this column we have added here in a stage table. Okay, and we have not added yet because if we see here in our landing table, we don't have source system table. Okay, sorry, source system column. So here we have to add one column, source system column, so that we can differentiate data for the respective source, right? Here we are not understanding like this data belongs to which source and all, right? So here we have to create add one column source system, and then we can create mark some data for the respective source. So let's try to come to landing layer to change it. We have to add one column. So let's come to column here, and so this is the employee landing table customer column, and let's try to add one column source system. This name you can give anything as per your choice, just to understand this will have the source system name. So this source system I have created in landing table. If we will come here and we refresh it, then why it is not showing? Let me refresh this CL cast. This is the landing table. Okay, here we got now, right? So let's give some test data in that. So suppose this data is coming from CRM, first one, and this data suppose is coming from EDW. Maybe we can create one more test data. This is 300. This is Shiva. This is from suppose Bangalore. And this is also coming suppose EDW. So for example, for EDW we have two data, for CRM we have one data, just for understanding. Okay. So we have now data in landing table. So again, if we have added column here, then it may or may not be required to add this column in the stage or base subject, because this column is only helping to filter data for the respective stage table from the landing table. In a stage table, this is not required. Okay. So now we can come to mapping. And here we have applied data for the source system CRM, because this mapping is for CRM source. Okay. So now everything looks fine. Here is a test. Like in test now, like if you are suppose passing for example here 5,000. So we want to see how your mapping is behaving. So what value it is giving to other columns. So see, in target, in customer ID column, it is giving 5,000, and in PKSRC object, it is giving 5,000. Why? Because PKSRC object we have mapped directly with the customer ID. Okay. So here you can do the testing kind of thing. Like you can pass some input value, and here you can see the result. How your mapping is behaving basically. Okay. So this is test section. Now let's come to diagram, and this mapping is already saved. Now let's create one more mapping for the EDW source. Okay. Come to add mapping, and this mapping is for EDW source, AM EDW, and this is for customer. Okay. So here let's select the landing table same, customer L underscore cust, but here we have to make sure that we have to select the EDW as just second stage table, because first stage table already we have created one mapping. That's why that one is not showing. That is already occupied in one mapping. So one stage table can only be mapped in a single mapping. Okay. We cannot have multiple source. We cannot have multiple target in this mapping. This flexibility we will have in ETL tool, but here we will not have this flexibility. So these are one-to-one kind of. In between that, we can apply clinch functions, but in source and target, we'll have always one source and one target here. So we have selected EDW target. Let's say okay. So here EDW mapping got created. Here we can diagram. Let's do auto mapping for our easy work. And here you can just pass the customer ID in PKSRC object. Same like that here, enable condition. And here you can pass SRC system column, which is there in the landing table. Let's filter data only for the EDW source. So we have applied the condition. And here same test is there. So we can only do test once we will save it. Okay. So once we save it, now we can do the testing same like before. Okay. So we have the mapping for both the stage table. So if we have created the mapping, now we will try to load the data from landing table to a stage table with the help of this mapping. So now question is that how we can execute this mapping. So for that, you need to come to utilities, and you need to come to batch viewer. And if you come to batch viewer, you can see your stage table. So you can see your stage table, one for CRM and one for EDW. Because you have created two stage table, these others are for others example. So let's select CRM stage table, and let's go to a stage process, double click, and here is your process. Here you can see your mapping, AM CRM cust, what mapping we have created just now, right? So just come here, select this, and click on execute batch. So execute batch means just it is executing that mapping. And if it is showing the hand, that means it's executing. Here you can see the current status is the processing, right? So now here you can come, and here you can do the refresh. Here you can do the refresh status, like what is the current status. So if you refresh, now come to job, and here you can see the total record was from source, it was 1, but inserted 0 and rejected record 1. Why? What happened? So we can see here reject, see here, ideally, we had one data from CRM, right here, one data from CRM. So ideally, this data should be inserted in our CRM stage table, but it not got inserted, okay? So it got rejected. Now let's see the rejection region. Well, means for what reason it got rejected. Okay, so click on this, and this will help you to debug such issue. So I made it intentionally to got reject so that we can understand it. So here you can see the error description we are getting. The date is missing, null or occurs in future. Okay, so here you should give the date column also. So what is happening? Here you can see there is a column last update date, and this is a mandatory column. We cannot pass the null value in that column. Okay, so here we know that in source, let's come SQL developer. Here in source, for example, we had taken the null value. Suppose we had not populated any value for this last update date. Okay, and the same null value is trying to pass here in the stage table. Here you can see. So here in a stage table, that last updated value cannot be null. We have to pass some value. Here it is saying the date is missing null or occurs in future. Okay. So it can have some future value or it can have some current value, but it cannot have null value. That's why the data got rejected. Okay. So how we can correct it? So we have two options. Either you can pass here some last updated value, or you can change your mapping here and you can change the logic. Sorry, let's come to mapping. And here, let's come to CRM cust mapping. And here, so suppose last updated, whatever we are getting from source, we are passing the same. So we are getting null, so it is trying to insert null, which is not allowing. So either here you can apply some functions like system data something, and we can pass that value, or else we can pass some value here and we can try to insert. So let's try to pass some value here. If it is taking, refresh. Okay, so yeah, now we can see. So let's give some future date like December 30, and then like that here you can also select something. So it should not have null value. As we know that in our actual real-time project, we will always have some value for this. This will be populated from our ETL tools. So we will always have a value some for this. So if for some data, if you will not have value, then we will get such region and that data will be rejected. So again, we have to make sure that we will have some data. Else we have to apply some logic here so that it can handle if we are getting null value from source. So we can pass some default value. So that we can do, handling we need to do in the mapping section. Okay. Now we have given some value in the last updated column. Now let's again come to batch viewer and let's try to rerun it. So let's execute batch and let's see what we are getting. Now it's executing. Let's do refresh. Again, we got rejection. Okay. And rejected record is one. We got one record from source, but nothing is loaded. Now let's see the region of rejection. So this time it is able to take value. Yeah, but sorry, yeah, this here we have done one mistake. So this last update date could not be a future date. It could either be a sys date or a now or system time stamp max, or it could be a past date. Because as we know that if we are getting some data here, so it will let us know when we got the data. So this data we cannot get in future, right? We will get data if we are running our ETL job now. So by default, it will take now system date, or we can have some data from source. So that past date we can store here. So we have given here a future date. That's why it is failing. So I will let you know what are the different region for the rejections. So this is a one region. One region is that if you will have null value, then it will reject. Second, if you have the future date, then again it will reject. And there are other regions also we will see. So for time being, for correcting that, we have to give some past date. So for past date, let's just change the year only. Let's make 2015, something like that. 2015. It is not 15, the 16. 2015. Or here, if you want to give system date now, we can take now also. That is fine. Now also is fine. Let's save it. And now let's try to run it. Let's here come and run the mapping. Then execute batch. refresh the status. Here now we can see the green mark. That means it got data got loaded without any rejection or failure. So here we got one data from source and it got loaded in target. Okay. Here, if we get something yellow like that, so it understand that some data got rejected. And if you are getting this signal, that means all data got loaded properly. So you want to see the data now, you have to come to a stage table. For that, let's refresh this. So the stage table will be C underscore S something. So let's see, come down and it will have C underscore S. This is our stage table. So we did for CRM, right? Where is CRM? CS underscore CRM. These are EDW. C underscore S underscore CRM. Where is that? Yes. What table name we have given? Here is stage table. Let's come to schema, staging table. Okay. For CRM, what? Oh, see, for CRM, we have actually edited the name like that. Okay. If you see for EDW, the name is properly like that. By default, it was added C underscore and whatever value we had given. But for CRM, we have taken this customer means we have edited the table, so it is taking the actual table. Okay, this table. So like what you question asked, no, you can see here we have changed the table name and accordingly that table will show here C underscore C underscore S underscore trust. This is our stage table. So we can give any name. It depends on us. So here you can see. Let's see the record. You see customer ID 100, name Raj, Delhi. It's got populated. Okay. This value will be populated by Informatica MDM for itself. Later we'll see the significance of this. And here you can see this is the primary column of this table. So here we are getting 100. Why? Because here we had mapped this. Where is the mapping? For CRM, we had mapped this customer ID to PKSRC object. So whatever value we will have, the same will be populated. Okay. Now we got the data in the CRM stage table. That is fine. Now let's try to load data for the EDW. So let's come to batch viewer and let's come to second stage table. So this table, this column, sorry, this table name, na, S underscore CRM underscore cur. So this is basically is a display name. Okay. If you want to see kind of actual name of this stage table, so always we have to come here. Always we have to come stage tables, table name, and here we have to see. So this is our display table name, and this is actual table name. So this table name you will not be able to see here in database because database only considers the physical table. So we have to consider this table if you are searching data in the database. Okay, so we got data in the CRM stage table. Now we have to load data in the EDW stage table. So let's again come to batch viewer, come to EDW stage table, come to a stage process, and this is the mapping which we had created for the EDW stage table. Now let's execute batch. And here you see we got two data from source and two got inserted. So here, yeah, in landing table, if you come, so here you can see we had two data CL batch. We have these two data from EDW, right? So we have applied the filter on this source system. That's why it is filtering data for the respective source system. If you will not apply, then it will read data for all source and it will load in the same stage table, which will be wrong. Okay. So if we have single landing table for multiple sources, so we have to make sure that we have some column which can differentiate each record for the respective source, like source system name, source SRC system, something you can add. Now we can verify data for this table as well for EDW. So for that, you can come down, and here the name is proper. So here have SEDW cust, and here we have two records, Ravi and Siva. Here you can see customer ID and all. And here we have to just keep focus on this PKSRC object. So this also got populated. So this PKSRC object, if you pass duplicate value, then again you will get rejection. If you pass null value, then again it will get rejection. Same like how we got for the last updated. Okay. So now if I come back here, so we have developed mapping and we have got data in the stage layer with the help of mapping. So now I will take a pause and you can ask your questions if you have.
Yeah, I don't have much questions. Only one question, like for landing to staging,
Yeah.
uh, what kind of complex transformation we can apply in between?
Yeah, that I will take up in the upcoming class. So in
Hmm.
upcoming class, we are going to see what are the different clean functions are available and how we can make the complex mappings, how we can handle the complex scenario. So in upcoming class, we will continue here in mapping itself. Our mapping is not finished. So this mapping just I have taken for introduction. Now in the upcoming classes, we will see what are the different clean functions are available, how we can apply those functions, how we can build the complex mapping and all. So
Okay,
that we
so
will
this
see.
is, yeah, this is directly a one-to-one mapping.
Yeah, this is just for simple, just for understanding, one to one, right?
Okay, and the columns that are by default in staging table, that also you will
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah, these system columns, right? So
Hmm.
these system columns, I will explain means significance of each column in the upcoming classes. You will see.
Okay,
So this is
okay,
just
okay.
our starting journey. So we will try to learn each and every columns, like what is the significance, what kind of value will store, and why this column is taken care by MDM. So these type of things we will be taken in our upcoming classes. So for today, we had our intention was to learn how to create landing table. So here we have created landing table. How to create a stage table. So we learned that before creating a stage table, we should add our source system here. So we came here, we added our source system here. And second prerequisite before creating a stage table, that we have to create the base object table. So we came here in schema and base object. Here first we have created our base object table. Then we have added the columns here. Where is correct? Here we added our columns. And once we created the base object, that then we know that every stage table is a child of base object. Then we came in the staging table section. And as we know that each stage table is specific to each source. So already we have defined the source, and here we have created a respective stage table for the respective source. After creating the stage table, we try to load data from landing table to a stage table. So for that purpose, we came to mapping. And here today we just created a simple mapping, like how we can move data from landing table to a stage table with the help of this simple mapping. And what could be the regions of rejections, like in what case the data could reject, which cannot be loaded to the stage table. We saw some example, and we will see more scenario in the upcoming class. So today we covered till mapping. Tomorrow we will try to see more complex mapping, and we will see what are the different clean functions available here, and means what is the capability of Informatica MDM for developing the mapping. So that part we will see tomorrow. So that's it for today class. Let me stop the recording for today.